Kirby, I'm back, and you can see the mountains behind me over here. That is in fact the Livingston Range, but I wanted today to focus on the wind farms that are kind of north and, well, both west and east of Pincher Creek, which is just over here. I'm just north of Pincher Station, and you will have seen some footage of them building these incredible wind turbines. Today I'd like to talk a little bit about peeing. I know that's kind of strange. My hope is to talk about peeing on essays. Now, by peeing, I mean making a point, providing an example, or giving evidence, and then explaining that evidence by telling your reader what to think. My hope is that as you put P chains in your essay writing, you are being very specific and providing good supporting detail so that your reader can understand your argument and buy into what it is you're saying. Good essays provide supporting evidence that shows your reader and tells your reader what to think.
Now we're back in my house again. I want to talk, yes, about P chains. It's important, though, that we start from the very beginning, because that's a very good place to start. There's an illusion. So we want to talk about essay writing as a whole, but in order to be able to do that, I need to go back further to paragraph writing. There's some words that I will use that will help us describe and understand, A, how to put together a paragraph, how that paragraph then goes in an essay, how P chains fit in that paragraph, and how P chains work in the full essay. So bear with me as we walk our way through essay writing, and we will come to peeing on an essay. Right, so we're going to move our way backwards. We could go back to talking about words as carriers of meaning, but we've learned, I think, over time to string those words together into sentences, and those sentences into paragraphs. But I think we can hone our skills at paragraph writing, and these terms that I'm going to talk with you about are helpful. At the beginning of each paragraph, you will want to start with something called a focus sentence. I call it a focus sentence so it's not confused with an introduction. Some people call them introductory sentences. I call them focus because that's what we want to do. We want to focus, bring our readers' attention to that thing that we're talking about in a focus sentence. Focus sentences introduce the reader to the topic of the paragraph, and they give us an idea of what we will be convinced by our author. So that's the focus sentence. Then you're going to have a number of sentences after that, which I'll call body sentences for lack of a better word. And those body sentences all need to be something, one thing. That's the bracket there. Those body sentences include things like information, facts, details, and definitely examples, or you could even put in evidence there. All of those things need to be specific. Very important that they are specific. Once we've got our body sentences, got our focus sentence, then our body sentences, then to close the paragraph or finish the paragraph, some people call this a concluding statement, but I want to use the word clincher statement. Clinch is an important thing. When you clinch an inning in baseball, that essentially allows you to end it very decisively or dramatically. That same idea, that connotation that comes with the word clinch is what I would like to come, that feeling with the word clincher statement, because this is what a clincher statement does. It sums up the topic. It restates the same idea as the focus sentence. It does so in a way that's very dramatic. Now, we can put those all into our essay writing. So we have these paragraphs that are tightly formulated with a focus sentence, body sentences, and a clincher statement. When we move to essay writing, each of our paragraphs is going to operate in a just a little bit different way. So there's a number of different types of paragraphs that we would have in an essay, but you'll see that particularly our body paragraphs will have the same pattern that we've described in paragraph writing. Have a look. So the first type of paragraph we have is an introductory paragraph. It includes first a general statement about the topic, and this really is general. It's about the topic as a whole, might be a couple of different sentences, allows our reader to kind of be introduced to the idea of the topic of our essay. Then you want to focus to the piece of literature that you're writing about, especially when we think about a critical analytical essay, where we're talking about what an author did or what an author shows in their piece of writing. And here you want to state for the record what piece of literature you're discussing. So it could be Swallowing Stones. In Swallowing Stones, blah, 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 blah. Usually this is about one sentence. And then the last thing, which is probably the most important thing you could possibly have in an essay, is your thesis statement. And this really is your statement of intent for the whole essay. Often when students don't have this statement of intent, their essay flounders. It goes all over the place and they're not quite sure why they're writing body paragraphs. But when you have it, you answer the topic or the question and you focus your reader. And this usually is about a couple of sentences. It allows you to tell your reader what you're going to tell them. It's like a big neon sign. Without that neon sign, nobody knows where to go. The next type of paragraph is the body paragraph. And you'll see that I have the P up here in the corner, and we'll pop in there in just a second. Body paragraphs are very important in terms of once we've brought our essay from the general to the more specific to the thesis statement, body paragraphs are then going to be where we provide our evidence to convince our reader that what we've said in our thesis statement is actually true. Okay, body paragraphs put our ideas into 3 paragraphs. So in a typical 5-paragraph essay, there are 3 body paragraphs. Doesn't mean that has to be the case. Could be 2, could be 4. But what you want to do is you want to organize them in some way that proves most effectively what you're trying to say. So our first body paragraph might deal with earlier. The second body paragraph might deal with in the middle, and the last one near the end. Or it could be this is least important to moving towards most important. You obviously got to have body paragraphs with focus, body, and clincher sentences. Okay, notice the different language that I'm using there. So focus, body, and clincher sentences. You got to have at least a couple of P chains in each of your body paragraphs. And you got to use specific details about the topic to show that what you're saying is what you're saying. So specific details. And that sometimes is the bane of existence of our poor students trying to learn how to write essays, and that is finding specific details. It is the phrase or the small part of that event that actually shows what it is we're trying to suggest when we are writing. And you got to prove that your thesis is true. This is where you do it. In your body paragraphs is where the rubber meets the road. In the introductory paragraph, you're just setting your reader up. In your body paragraphs, you're actually pushing your ideas onto the reader. You're going to make a point, and this relates back to the focus sentence of your paragraph. And then you're going to provide some evidence or example of that. It could be a quotation from the piece of work you're talking about, but it might be a small summary, like a very, very brief summary of what happened, an event, so you can show that the point you've made is actually true. And then you're going to actually explain. You're going to say how that piece of evidence proves your point. And you might use the word show. You might say, in a very simple sense, this shows that blah, 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 blah. That allows you to be able to, in more than one way, if you've got more than one of these in a paragraph, 2 to 3, it allows you to provide enough evidence, convincing evidence for your reader so that they can understand what your focus is in that particular paragraph. Your concluding paragraph then is about bringing your audience, your reader, away from the specifics of proving to them, back to summary, and then allowing your reader to generalize or moralize the understanding you've provided for them about the topic with the evidence that you've given them inside those P chains. Concluding paragraph includes a number of different things. So first of all, you're going to restate your thesis statement. You might do it in new words, different words, and then you're going to summarize the 3 body paragraphs. This shouldn't take very long. It might be a couple of sentences, could be 3 at absolute max, preferably 1 or 2. The last thing you're going to do is you're going to moralize. You're going to explain how this thing that you've proven in your essay relates to literature as a whole or relates to life in general. And that allows you to bring your reader from very general into specific, prove, and then back out to general again. It looks something like this. You can see that on the left-hand side, we start general, we become very specific with our thesis statement, we prove very specifically in our body paragraphs these things are correct, and then we restate our thesis statement, and by the time we come to the end, we're also very, very generalized again. And definitely each of those body paragraphs should include between 2 and 3 P chains where you're making a point, you're providing some evidence or examples, and then you are explaining those so your reader knows exactly why you've chosen to put those in. Let's have a look specifically at those body paragraphs. So each body paragraph should have a focus. It should have body sentences, and those body sentences should be P chains. So you could have at least 2, maybe 3 P chains. And then each body paragraph should have a clincher statement as well. All of those are relating to each other. The clincher essentially restates what the focus is suggesting. The body should prove what the focus is suggesting and allow you to restate that in your clincher statement. And that's a pattern that just continues in body paragraphs all the way through. Now, the reason I have the arrows on the left side is because all of them must relate back to your thesis statement.
So there you have it. That's how you P on an essay. Now, I don't want you to P literally, of course, but to remember that acronym, I thought P was perhaps a little better than sex.